Hi, Trent. Thank you for joining me.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
So we're going to focus on the topic of articulation. What does articulation mean to you?
Articulation to me is like the thing that really defines the note from different notes, I guess. It's where the note starts and where the note ends in particular.
That's a really great description. It's all encompassing, right? Because there are certain types of articulation where we might not use our tongue. We might use air attack, or we're using our tongue to end the note, or we're thinking about supporting with our air. So it's a really great kind of all-encompassing view of articulation.
Right.
Are there certain things that you do, exercises or excerpts that you like to do to practice articulation?
Yes, I do an exercise where it's based around the Mendelssohn Scherzo, and I'll turn on a metronome at approximately 72 beats per minute, and then I'll work up, and I do straight sextuplets or at 72 beats per minute. I just keep going and trying to stay with the beat, and then I up it a few clicks, do the same thing over, and then I do an exercise where I once again 72 beats per minute, and I do da 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 da, and then da 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 da,
Nice.
and then I add notes on and on until I get to sextuplets.
Can I hear the first exercise, the
Yes,
Mendelssohn
absolutely.
one?
And then I would increase it by 2 clicks. And that wasn't as clean, so I'd probably do it a few more times than I click, but after I
Okay,
got that.
good. So I'm going to stop you for just a second because you said it wasn't as clean, and I'm really glad that you heard that you noticed, because it's really important when we practice to pay really critical attention to what's happening.
Right.
It's so easy to just play and not think, not analyze. So I'm really happy you noticed that instantly. But let me ask you a question. Why don't you think it was as clean?
I could feel my articulation being a bit fatter, I guess. A bit like in my mind, it's like I'm pressing too hard, and that's slowing me down.
Okay, so let's try that at 74 without slowing back down.
Okay.
And see if you can make that correction. Try lighter pressure on the reed.
I feel pretty good about it.
Nice. Okay, great. So you can stop the metronome. So I just use that as an example. When we are working on something, it's a good tendency to say, I need to slow back down, but sometimes maybe also to figure out how to get something really fast and play something very difficult like the Mendelssohn Scherzo, we've got to figure out how to make things work
Right.
at that faster tempo. So can we try a little bit of the opening of Mendelssohn?
Yes.
Okay, great. We can just stop there. So what was interesting was when you were doing the exercise, your embouchure was nice and still. It looked nice and stretched across the teeth. And then when you started playing the scherzo, all of a sudden the embouchure didn't look as tight. It started moving a lot. The other thing was your air. You were making a good effort of keeping your air going during the exercise. Then once you started playing scherzo, I heard a lot of starting and stopping of the air, like right?
Gotcha.
So we have to try to make a good connection from what you're doing in the exercise to the excerpt. We have a lot of fear when it comes to, especially that excerpt, right? So let's go back to the exercise. And we can just do it without the metronome or whatever's comfortable tempo. And let's just try that exercise a few times. And I want you to think about what your embouchure is, I guess, doing or not doing, and what your air is doing.
Gotcha.
Good, good. So that looks pretty still. I feel like the air is pretty continuous. Are you feeling that as you're playing?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I do want to see if we can get a little bit of more clarity onto the articulation. It sounds a little bit like da 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 da, and I want more ta 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 ta. So it could just be a tongue placement issue. Let's make sure that you're taking the top of the tip of your tongue right here and putting it right underneath the tip of the reed.
Gotcha.
So we can start with the tongue out of the mouth. So try to put it a little bit more on the top of your tip. You're a little bit under almost at the tip.
Gotcha.
So you can see if you want to grab the coffee straw. When we say tip, it's kind of vague. It could mean a lot of different things, but we want to be on the top of the tip. So right here. And that way as our tongue is kind of doing this EU tongue position, that we're just like right here on the tip.
Gotcha.
Okay. You can practice on the coffee straw too. Yeah, good. Does that feel a little bit different?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so we're going to be getting ta-ta-ta at the beginning, which is great. So then second part, let's talk about the air. We tend to change our air when we articulate, and we shouldn't.
Yeah.
The tongue either gets in the way or we get in the way. So let's just try, we're doing that throat tone A. And yes, put down your good fingering. We want to go for that best quality sound. Play that A with the kind of air that you want. And then start tonguing.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm going to be a little picky with you because I can. So for throat tone A, can you try this fingering? So 3-1 C key.
C key. Gotcha.
And so let me just hear what that sounds like. Just hold it. Good. Can you go back to your other fingering? So this fingering is a little more dull. The problem with throat tones is that they lack overtones.
Right.
They're kind of like fake notes, really. And so we need to create as many overtones, as much core in the sound as possible, because they tend to sound like or you need something like E with lots of ring. So when you pick a fingering, and you're welcome to use this one, you want to pick a fingering that gives the most center to the note and the most ring. So let's try that 3-1 C key one more time.
Gotcha.
Good. So step 1 is the fingering. Step 2 is what we do with the air. So when we are playing the clarinet generally, our tongue position is sort of higher in the back and more angled in the front, right? So we're kind of directing the air down. When we play the throat tones, we do not do that. In fact, if we do that, it sounds kind of saggy versus a more upward tongue position. It has a lot more core in it.
Oh, interesting.
Okay, so one of the important things when we're doing throat tones and when we're putting this much air and we're changing the direction is that we need to have a strong enough reed. This is how I test my reeds. I always test them in the throat tones. If they're too soft, they're not going to hold up to that pressure. So try just right now just moving your reed up a little bit on the mouthpiece just to make it a little bit harder. And so remember, we're angling that tongue position up, kind of pushing on that reed and allowing as many overtones as possible. So you want to go, once you start hearing it get more clear, that you want to go in that direction.
Okay.
Awesome. And I want you to imagine you're kind of taking that sad, saggy A, we're pushing it up, trying to make it sound like a real note. Great, great. So that's already sounding clear, more overtones. It's unfortunate for us this excerpt is also starting on a throat tone A,
Yes,
but we want to try to get the best sound quality possible when we're slurring and then mimic that when we articulate. So let's try some articulation now.
Right.
Try to keep that air moving really, really, really fast, and we'll just try.
You want me to copy what you just played? Or
If you don't mind.
could you play it one more
Yeah,
time?
no
I
problem.
wasn't ready.
So I'm just doing straight 16ths, and then I go to the Mendelssohn Scherzo rhythm.
Gotcha.
I want you to think about that tongue position that we did earlier. So tongue position and air.
Gotcha.
Good. So as you're listening for consistency in the articulation, listen for consistency in the sound, and we're trying to create those overtones. So we're just listening that every note has the same amount of overtones and matches consistently as we're articulating.
Gotcha.
Excellent. It's already sounding better. So can you try that a few more times? I want you to think more air, less tongue. More air, less tongue.
Gotcha.
You hear how much more ring you got that time?
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
great. Do that a few more times. Started out good and then the tongue dropped. That was so clear and consistent. So when you do this exercise, work on that. Work on the tone quality and the consistency of the sound and articulation to get your best sound. I think it sounds great now. Now we just have to do that when we're playing the excerpt.
Right.
Most of it is mental, okay?
Yeah.
I promise, most of it's in your head. So let's just try the excerpt now, but I just want you to play A's. So
Okay.
you're gonna play the rhythm and the articulation, but only on A. So it will be. But already start puffing with your air. So let's see if we can connect to the exercise. Let's just do that first measure. So try to start the air down here, not in your throat, and one chunk of air that your tongue is on top of. I think T started to drop in the tongue position. That's better. A few more times. So I don't want you to think that you're playing Mendelssohn Scherzo right now. You're just doing your exercise, right?
Right.
Okay.
Gotcha.
We're not playing Mendelssohn Scherzo. Good, nice. T, 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 T. Excellent. So I want you to imagine that your air is going the whole time. Your tongue is starting and stopping the reed, but the air has to be consistent. Okay, good. So we'll add a few measures on now. Again, it's still not Mendelssohn Scherzo, just an exercise. So 4 measures. Then the air's slowing down a bit. Let's keep it nice and fast. Awesome. Great. Okay, you want to add a little bit more?
Sure.
Okay. Let's try the first 8 bars. Good. So as you get going on and the tongue has to tongue quicker and longer, do you know what happens? Do you hear what happens?
I feel like it gets a little fatter.
Yeah, it gets kind of more sluggish. So let's try to think T, let's try to think not moving the tongue very much at all and really think about the speed of your air.
Gotcha.
That sounded awesome. So the only thing you need to do now is change your fingers for the notes, okay? That's
Right.
it. But if you can start from the standpoint of having the articulation what you want, then it's just much easier when we add the fingers.
Gotcha.
So would you like to try that right now?
Sure.
Do you want to give it a
Yeah.
go? Okay. It's a lot harder once we start doing that, right?
I don't have it memorized completely.
Oh,
I'm not gonna lie,
okay,
but-
that's okay. Well, maybe it's a bad idea to try that. So when you start playing with the fingers, just a couple things happen. When we add, because we add that long B, your embouchure really wants to move when you play that long B.
Gotcha.
So that would be something I would do probably slurred, just practice. In front of a mirror and make sure that that embouchure is not moving, because if it's moving, it's going to create changes in the airflow, changes in the reed, changes in the articulation.
Right.
So just specific to this excerpt, right, or when we're practicing anything that we're going over the break. So keep that in mind, and then when you are tonguing on that long B, you tend to puff your air a little bit more. Now, long B is a totally different note than throat tone A, and that's another reason that makes this excerpt really hard. So the other thing you can do is practice the articulation exercise that we did, but do it on long B. So you get used to making those adjustments. So you can play. And really focus on keeping the tongue light and the air going through the eighth notes. The eighth notes are going to be the hard part.
Right.
Would you like to try that?
Yes.
Okay, good. So let's talk about what changes for long B. What changes, what needs to change in our setup? I don't want to give too many hints away, versus what we're doing with A.
I think the air needs to be moving faster, because in my mind, I guess with the A, the air is coming out here,
Yep.
and on B, the air is coming out, I guess technically here, but realistically here.
You're very close. So we got to get it all the way down the tube, which means we talked about the tongue position, right? So we've got to get it more angled. Try to think about directing the air all the way through. What is the other thing about long B? We have all our fingers down. What does that change?
I guess the resonance of the instrument.
It changes the resonance, it changes the resistance.
Gotcha.
Right? So it's like we're playing with a 5-pound weight and we picked up a 30-pound weight. So we've got to change the pressure of the air and of the embouchure. So I think to get more clarity, let's really focus on that airstream, the air speed, and a little bit of tightening in the embouchure, which you probably are doing already. And we do need a little bit more t-t-t to make that note clearer. Awesome. So that was a lot more clear, I feel like. Now let's just check it against the A. And just making that tongue shift. I didn't quite do it very well the very first time. Yeah, good. So it's still a little less clear on the B.
Yes.
A little bit more.
I like that.
Fantastic. Excellent. And this is a great exercise for you to practice that break crossing. The easier it becomes, the less you're going to feel like you need to move your embouchure. And so again, we have, sort of baggage with this excerpt, and we have to trick our brain into thinking like it's easy, right? And if we're doing all the mechanics correctly, it will become easy. And so that's my hope for you.